Galactic aliens left their deadly mammoth and her cubs to die until the planet Velos was a place of extremes. 2 suns scorched its sprawling tundras during the day, while ice storms raged on the twin moons at night. Across its vast plains, a species ruled in primeval dominance. The Zarmoth, towering mammoths bred not of Earth, but of genetic artistry by the Galactic Consortium. Their tusks could slice through starship hulls, their hides were as strong as ferro steel, and their instincts have been sharpened into weapons by eons of selective design. To the Consortium, these mammoths were not just animals. They were tools of war, released upon enemy worlds like living siege engines. Yet even the most engineered creatures could be inconvenient. When the war against the Klyon rebels ended, the mammoths became burdensome. No longer were they needed to trample fortresses or instill terror in conquered populations. They ate too much, resisted control, and required constant genetic monitoring. So, the decision was made: abandon them. On the icy flats of Velos' northern pole, a mother Zarmoth stood guard over 3 cubs. She was larger than a starfighter, her tusks glowing faintly with bioluminescent cracks where internal heat leaked through. The cubs, barely the size of tanks, whimpered as the transport ships lifted into the sky. Their masters, alien wardens with sleek obsidian armor and cold, insectoid faces, did not look back. Engines thundered, shadows lengthened, and then silence fell. The mother roared, her bellows shaking the frozen ridges. She didn't understand betrayal, not in the way sapiens did. She knew hunger, the fragility of her cubs, and the looming cold that would soon pierce their thick coats. She knew they had been left, and for the first time, a creature built for destruction faced extinction. Chapter 1, The Human Intrusion. Jaren Holt had been many things in his 37 years: soldier, mechanic, scavenger. But on Velos, he was just a survivor. He'd crash-landed on the planet 2 months ago, his smuggling vessel torn apart by Consortium patrol fire. No distress signal reached beyond the storm-heavy atmosphere. No rescue was coming. He lived by his wits, digging shelters in the ice, siphoning energy from wreckage, hunting with a plasma rifle that was already losing charge. The world was merciless. But Jaren had survived wars before. He could survive this. On the 37th night, he heard it, a sound that split the tundra. A deep, mournful trumpet, followed by a chorus of high-pitched cries. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the ice shifting. It was life. Jaren climbed a ridge and froze. In the distance, illuminated by twin moons, stood the Zarmoth mother and her cubs. He recognized them instantly. Soldiers told stories of these monsters, of entire battalions flattened under their charge. But what he saw now wasn't terror. It was desperation. The mother's ribs were visible beneath her thick, armor-like hide. Her cubs staggered, too weak to rise. "Holy stars," Jaren whispered. "They left you to die." He should have walked away. Every survival instinct screamed at him to stay hidden. But Jaren wasn't built that way. He had seen abandoned war dogs on battlefields, used until broken. He had carried dying comrades through mud because no one else would. And now, staring at these forsaken beasts, something in him hardened. He descended the ridge. Chapter 2, The Bond of Hunger. The first encounter nearly killed him. The mother charged, trumpeting so loudly that his bones rattled. Jaren barely dove aside as a tusk gouged the trench where he'd stood. Plasma rifle raised, he hesitated. He could fire, maybe burn through her hide if he hit the glowing heat cracks. But then he saw the cubs collapse behind her, whimpering, their legs too weak to support them. He lowered his rifle. "I'm not your enemy," he muttered. "You've already got one." Slowly, cautiously, Jaren scavenged from his wreck. He dragged out protein packs, heat cells, even fragments of synthetic cloth. Over days he approached, leaving offerings at the edge of her territory. At first, she scattered them, suspicious. But hunger overcame fear. The cubs nibbled at the protein packs, crunching plastic with their growing tusks. The mother tolerated his presence, watching with eyes like molten amber. One night, a storm howled across the tundra, freezing winds sharp enough to flay flesh. Jaren crawled into his makeshift shelter, shivering. At dawn, he emerged to find the mother standing close, her body shielding the cubs and him from the worst of the storm. That was the first time he touched her. He placed a hand on her flank, heat radiating like a furnace beneath her hide. She rumbled low, not hostile, but wary acknowledgement. "You're not just weapons," he said softly. "You're family." Chapter 3, The Hunters Arrive. Peace didn't last. 3 weeks later, the sky burned with descending fire. Consortium hunters. They had returned not to rescue the mammoths, but to erase evidence. The Galactic Council had strict prohibitions against abandoned war beasts. If rival factions learned their cruelty, it could spark rebellion. Better to eliminate the creatures. And anyone who had seen them. Dropships slammed into the tundra. Armored soldiers disembarked, rifles glowing with plasma coils. Drones scouted the horizon, seeking targets. Jaren knew what would happen. He'd seen it before. Clean sweeps, extermination squads. No one left alive. The Mammoth mother sensed it too. She trumpeted, stamping her massive feet, her cubs crying as they huddled beneath her. Jaren sprinted to her side. If they want you, they'll have to go through me. It was madness. One human against an army. But he had an idea. Chapter 4, Siege of the Ridge. Jaren led the Mammoth family to a jagged ridge of ice and stone, a natural fortress. He had studied it during his scavenging runs. Tunnels, choke points, high ground. A soldier's instinct never dulled, and he began rigging traps with what little tech remained. Energy cells became mines. Wreckage shards became shrapnel bombs. When the consortium soldiers advanced, they found more resistance than expected. Explosions lit the tundra, scattering drones. The mother mammoth charged through the smoke, tusks impaling soldiers, her hide shrugging off plasma bolts that didn't strike her heat cracks. Her cubs fought clumsily but fiercely, biting at drones and trampling infantry. And Jaren became the ghost of war again. He sniped from the ridges, ambushed squads in narrow tunnels, and led soldiers into the mother's waiting tusks. But numbers told. For every soldier felled, more descended. The mother bled from a dozen wounds. One cub was limping, its leg charred. Jaren himself staggered, plasma rifle nearly drained. Then came the Exo Walker, a towering machine with cannons mounted on its arms. Its first salvo blasted the ridge apart, scattering ice shards like shrapnel. The mother trumpeted, standing firm despite her wounds. She would not abandon her cubs. Jaren looked at them, and made a decision. Chapter 5, The Sacrifice Plan. He sprinted across the ridge, dragging the last of his energy cells. The Exo Walker locked onto him, cannons whirring. "Come on, you bastard," Jaren shouted. "You want a war beast? Try me." He planted the cells at the ridge's weak point, a natural fault line he had studied. Plasma fire streaked toward him. At the last second, he dove clear and triggered the detonator. The ridge collapsed. Ice and stone avalanched down, burying the Exo Walker in a thunderous roar. Soldiers scattered, crushed beneath tons of frozen debris. Silence followed, broken only by the mother's rumbling cry. Jaren lay half-buried, bleeding from shrapnel wounds. The Mammoth mother approached, lowering her massive head. Gently, she nudged him upright, her tusks glowing faintly in the dim light. "You're welcome," he coughed. But he knew this wasn't over. More ships would come. Chapter 6, The Exodus. Jaren's mind raced. They couldn't fight forever. The consortium had endless soldiers, endless machines. But Velos had something else. Old mining tunnels from long-abandoned colonies. He had mapped some during scavenging runs. Deep beneath the ice, warmth lingered from geothermal vents. There, the mammoths might survive. With the mother's help, he led them across frozen plains, hiding from patrols, slipping into tunnels marked by ancient rusted signs. They descended into warmth, where moss still grew and water trickled in dark caverns. The cubs perked up, rumbling happily. For the first time, Jaren allowed himself hope. Chapter 7, The Legacy of War Beasts. Months passed. Jaren healed slowly, his body crisscrossed with scars. He built a shelter in the caverns, a crude home warmed by geothermal heat. The cubs grew, their tusks lengthening, their hides hardening. The mother watched them always, no longer with suspicion but with something deeper, trust. But above, the consortium never stopped searching. Patrols combed the tundra. Scanners pierced the skies. Rumors spread across systems of a human protecting abandoned war beasts. Some called it madness. Others called it rebellion. Jaren didn't care what they called it. He had made his choice. "These aren't your weapons anymore," he told the cubs as they nuzzled his hands. "You're more than what they made you. You're family now." And the mother, looming above him, rumbled low, as if she understood. Chapter 8, The Final Stand. 1 year later, the consortium found them. Drill ships bored into the caverns, disgorging soldiers in swarms. Plasma fire lit the underground halls. Jaren fought alongside the mammoths, his rifle long since rebuilt with scavenged parts. The cubs, now massive, fought like titans, tusks cleaving through armor. The mother was unstoppable, roaring thunder that echoed through stone. But the numbers were too great. Jaren fell back, blood soaking his side. He knew this was the end. Then, an explosion shook the caverns. Not from the consortium, but from above. Starships descended, but their banners were not consortium black. They bore the sigil of the Cleon rebels, sworn enemies of the Galactic Council. Rebel soldiers stormed the caverns, fighting not against the mammoths, but alongside them. Their leader, a scarred woman named Lysara, approached Jaren. "We heard the stories," she said, blasting a drone apart. "A human who defended war beasts the Council abandoned. We came to see if they were true." Jaren, half delirious, laughed. "Guess they are." Together, rebels and mammoths drove consortium out. The caverns shook with victory cries. Epilogue: The Mammoth's Roar. Years later, legend spread across the galaxy of the Mammoth Guardian, a human who stood against the consortium, who turned abandoned war beasts into symbols of resistance. The Zarmoth herd grew, protected by rebels, feared by tyrants. And Jaren Holt, scarred but unbroken, lived among them, no longer just a survivor. He was family. The mother mammoth, ancient now, stood beside him on a ridge overlooking the tundra. Her tusks glowed in the sunset. Her cubs, now giants themselves, rumbled across the plains. "They left you to die," Jaren whispered. "But you lived, and because of you, so did I." The mother trumpeted, a sound that rolled across the frozen world, a sound not of war, but of life reclaimed. The galaxy would never forget.